Hi there. So it's day 21 of your reset, and as you're reading this or watching this, it's possible that you're experimenting with an intermittent fast. So if you are, please share your experiences with me because I'm curious to know how you're going with that. And yeah, let's continue with the topic of fats, healthy fats and bad fats. And today we're looking at cholesterol because it's a super important topic. And there are a lot of, as the title says, there are a lot of sort of truth, lies, and politics around the issue of cholesterol. Just in case you found this video on YouTube and you don't know what I'm talking about, there's a link in the video notes below, so you can just jump across to my website and read all about my Detox and Reset 31-day program that follows the primal health model, the paleo diet, the ancestral health model. And yes, for those of you who are doing the reset, day 21, Sunday, and we're talking about cholesterol, so let's get into it. Cholesterol and saturated fat, many people worry that we're about eating foods that are high in cholesterol, like eggs, but we need cholesterol, right? We need cholesterol, it's really good for us. And unfortunately, the misinformation about cholesterol continues to have devastating implications for health and well-being. The theories promoted by conventional wisdom that eating fat makes you fat and eating cholesterol raises your cholesterol levels are simplistic and just wrong. Eating eggs, butter, and lard is good for you, and here's why. Now, there's a little bit of sciencey stuff going on here, so just stick with it as much as you can, assimilate as much as you can. What is cholesterol exactly? Cholesterol is a molecule composed of fat, and it's essential for the construction and the maintenance of cell membranes, for the composition of blood plasma, for the metabolism of fat-soluble vitamins, and for the production of bile to digest fat, as well as the optimal functioning of our sex hormones. Now, cholesterol is produced in the liver, and production varies according to our food consumption. So, cholesterol, HDL and LDL, you see this on your blood tests, right? HDL and LDL. Cholesterol is oil-based, but the bloodstream is water-based. And so to be transported easily, cholesterol and other fats bind to protein-coated particles and become lipoproteins. And so lipoproteins are a mix of cholesterol, triglycerides, phospholipids, and proteins. Now, there are several types of lipoproteins, and they all come in different sizes. And the three types that are nominated for putting one at risk of heart disease are VLDL, LDL, and HDL, okay? So these are the ones that you sort of see on blood tests, and doctors talk about this. VLDL are your very low-density lipoproteins. HDL are high-density lipoproteins, and LDL are low-density lipoproteins, okay? So low, high, high, low, and very low, right? High, low, and very low density. Now, HDL is the good cholesterol, right? HDL eliminates oxidized cholesterol from arteries and blood circulation, right? It's like a cleaning machine. Your HDL is like a cleaning machine that moves through the arteries. VLDL, right, your very low density, transports your triglycerides and cholesterol to the cells and muscles. And after delivery, it shrinks and becomes LDL. Now, the LDL that is formed can be large and fluffy or small and dense. Your large and fluffy LDL, I sort of think of them as little cartoon characters. Large and fluffy LDL, they form when triglyceride and insulin levels are low. They're generally harmless, and they only become dangerous if they oxidized, and if, once oxidized, they remain in the bloodstream for too long, right? So your oxidization of large and fluffy LDL occurs in the context of an unhealthy lifestyle. A high insulin-producing diet, chronic systemic inflammation, abdominal obesity, and smoking, etc., will lead towards the formation of the oxidization of large and fluffy LDL. The oxidation will also occur when HDL levels are low, because the HDL is like a cleaning machine, and if they're not, and if HDL levels are low, it means that cleaning machine isn't there to clear them away from the bloodstream. And oxidization of large and fluffy LDLs also occurs when when poor thyroid function has resulted in desensitized LDL receptors, which will cause them to stay in the bloodstream for too long. Okay, so if they're in this bloodstream for too long, they're at risk of becoming oxidized. Now, your small and dense LDL form when triglyceride and insulin levels are high, right? So we've spoken a lot about the danger of having high triglyceride and high insulin levels. High triglyceride and high insulin levels lead to the formation of small and dense LDL. Because they're small, they can get stuck on the layer of endothelial cells that line the walls of the arteries. And if they get stuck and blocked there, they become oxidized, right? When we say oxidized, we're talking about they become rancid, right? Because oxygen is constantly flowing through the arteries. And the oxidative damage provokes a response from the immune system. Now, as with your large and soft LDL, a sluggish thyroid can also cause small, dense LDM numbers to rise as it slows down the cleaning of the bloodstream. Right? Now, see this image here in your email of traffic, right? Traffic blocked on a freeway. This is important, right? This is a really cool analogy. The problem with blood tests for cholesterol. The total LDL reading on a blood test reveals the total amount of cholesterol carried by the LDL particles, but it doesn't indicate the size of the LDL particles. And so this makes the tests largely ineffective. Large, fluffy LDLs contain a lot of cholesterol in each particle, but they're light and they don't take up much space, right? So they're like buses on the freeway. A bus can hold a lot of passengers, but it doesn't increase the amount of traffic on the road. But your small, dense LDLs contain little cholesterol, but they're more likely to get stuck in the spaces between the endothelial cells of the arteries. So your small and dense LDLs are like, a large number of Fiat 500s on the highway, of little minis on the highway. A Fiat 500 can only hold a couple of passengers, so they increase the amount of traffic on the road. Right? So obviously, the more traffic there is on the road, the greater risk there is of traffic jams and accidents. And this risk is increased when the highway, right? So the endothelial cell layer is damaged due to chronic systemic inflammation. Yeah? So your total cholesterol reading might be 130, but are the passengers on the freeway contained in a bus? Or are they traveling in lots of little Fiat 500s? It'd be more useful to measure the number of LDL particles, buses and 500s, rather than the cholesterol levels, which are the passengers. Now, 75% of people who have suffered from heart attack have a total cholesterol reading below 130 mg, right, which is considered safe, and 50% are below 100. Now, conventional medicine, at least at the time of preparing this, conventional medicine is interpreting that we should have even lower LDL levels. But they're neglecting the risk factors that are combined to create the conditions for heart disease and stroke, which have nothing to do with low cholesterol levels and dietary cholesterol consumption. Right, so let's have a look at this, right? How to cultivate the ideal conditions for a heart attack. It all starts with excess carbohydrates. Excess carbohydrates lead to excess insulin production, which leads to high triglycerides, which leads to the accumulation of fat, and excess cortisol production, which leads to chronic systemic inflammation. Now add to this still more excess cortisol and stress, right? Plus a leaky gut, plus rancid trans and seed oils, plus sleep deprivation, plus sun deprivation, plus chronic exercise and or a sedentary lifestyle, plus a diet low in antioxidants, plus smoking, plus alcohol, plus an overloaded immune system. And you can see that all of this together is creating the ideal conditions for lifestyle disease. Okay, so heart attack and stroke. As mentioned earlier, when small and dense LDLs get trapped in the artery walls, they oxidize, right? So there's a bit of a graphic there that you can see what's happening. When small and dense LDLs get trapped in the artery walls, they oxidize, right? They go rancid. And when they go rancid, the immune system sends white blood cells it's called macrophages to remove the damaged LDLs. Now, when the macrophages get overloaded with work, they turn into sponge cells. And as the oxidization and inflammation continues, the sponge cells turn into plaque. When plaque ruptures, it can block the artery instantly or it can enter the bloodstream. So a stroke occurs when the plaque blocks an artery leading to the brain. And a heart attack occurs when it blocks an artery leading to the heart. Okay? So we don't want that. So, if healthy dietary fats aren't a problem, why have we been told not to eat them? So this is the story, right? This is the story. You can go and look this up yourself. In the 1960s, the American scientist Ancestral used flawed scientific studies to back up his condemnation of saturated fat. His recommendations were supported by the United States government, the agricultural industry, and the burgeoning food production industries. Right? So you got to think that back in the 1960s, before the 1960s, supermarkets and the food industry didn't even exist. And then there was this boom of, within agriculture and the food industry. And politics entered it, right? So the world followed the recommendations of the United States. We were told that saturated natural fats were harmful, right? The foods that allowed Homo sapiens to thrive throughout evolution were suddenly shunned. Eggs, butter, fatty cuts of meat, coconut, avocado, nuts, it all had to go. We were told that the oils and fats created through industrialized processes were healthy. We started eating substances that hadn't existed before 1960, such as margarine and partially hydrogenated oils and trans fats. And from that point onwards, the rates of obesity, heart disease, and cancer have skyrocketed despite advanced health systems. Now, along with meta-analysis involving hundreds of thousands of people, Ancestral himself admitted in 2007 that there is no correlation between cholesterol in food and cholesterol in our blood. So there you go. Okay, so eat. In the section of eat, we're talking about nutritional density. Nutritional density is key, and there's a lovely recipe here of my spicy fried liver. So what we want to encourage is a diet that favors nutritional density. What this means is that every calorie we consume is rich in complete protein, healthy fats, vitamins, and minerals. And for this reason, it's a really good idea to include a bit of organ meat on your weekly menu, right? Now, no other food compares when it comes to nutrition per gram. So if you haven't tried my recipe yet for fried liver with spices, then do so. You'll find it in your recipe book, or there's a link below. And it is a really great recipe. Look, we have this, once a week we make this. And what you'll find if you're new to eating organ meat, if you're new to liver, you'll find that the intensity of the spices sort of balance out the richness of the liver. Yeah, but it is really nice. It's good. Okay, so there's in the turquoise box, there's 10 ways to reduce stress. It's Sunday today, so your movement recommendation is to play or to rest. And there's your journal your journal work today, 5 or 10 minutes writing, which is, because it's Sunday, to reflect upon your efforts of the last week. What are you proud of yourself for? What was difficult for you? What was easy for you? And yeah, just generally how you're going. Okay, so you've survived the third week, and well done for getting this far. 1 week to go. And I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, ciao.